Hello, this is Dan from Dan's Sprinkler. We're out here in Green Valley Ranch. We're getting ready to do a sprinkler startup, so I wanted to walk you through a little bit of the basics on what to look for when you have a sprinkler startup done. So the first thing we want to look at is the vacuum breaker, which is this device right over here. So before you turn the water on, you want to check this device here and make sure there's no damage to it. So it's always a good process just to go through. You can see by looking at this cap, it's already had some damage in the past, probably from freezing and separation. This is a Wilkins 720A model. It's got all metal components. And so we're going to just take this off the lid and take a look inside, since we've got a little bit of freeze indication from the canopy being split here. And we're going to see what's going on underneath and see if we need to do some repairs before we turn the water on. Okay, so we've got the cap off here, and the first couple things that you can see right here is you have this bridge, and it's completely split in half. And so underneath that bridge is a plunger and a pin that comes through with the rubber gasket, and that's what kind of seals the water as it comes up out of the basement and hits this plunger and then goes through the system. You can also see that these pins coming up where the screws go, and you can see they're kind of flared out. A normal ring, or actually called the bonnet, is actually, they're straight up and down. So at the very minimum, we're going to be replacing the ring, but sometimes the body of the unit expands slightly as well, and it won't sometimes even receive the new parts, and sometimes the whole unit has to be replaced. So we're going to remove this ring here and see what we have underneath. And we'll see if the new ring will be received by the body. And there's a good picture of the underside, and you can see that should normally be flat, perfectly flat, and you can see that that whole thing is dented in and has suffered and expanded. You can see how these pins that were normally straight up have just been stretched out. Underneath we have the other part of this unit, and you can see that that's actually been cracked because it froze. So that's actually been completely destroyed as well, and it won't maintain the water. So these parts are a little harder to get at your normal hardware store. Normally they don't carry these. Home Depots, Lowe's don't carry these particular models of Wilkins units, and they don't normally carry the parts. So there are sprinkler supply stores out there that you can get these parts from. You can also get them from me if necessary. I can sell you these as well. But they are a little bit harder to get a hold of. But here's the new part, and we're going to go ahead and put this in and see how things go with the repair and see if it holds the water. Down here in the basement of this home, and we're going to check the repair that we've just completed upstairs, and we're going to turn the water on. So just a couple things I want to talk about before we turn the water on. Sometimes homeowners never had a sprinkler system before, so let's just talk a little bit about some of the levers and knobs that you're going to see over here that's common. Usually down below you'll have a main shutoff for the entire house, and this one's actually marked main. It comes up, this is a pressure reducer to drop the pressure down. Sometimes the pressure will be at 80, 90, 100, even over 100 pounds sometimes. So this regulates the pressure. This comes up to the house, and it's labeled house right there, very nice and clear. Goes up, feeds the house. It tees off right here, and it actually feeds the sprinkler, and this one's actually labeled sprinkler. So you want to make sure that this drain nut is tied on, is nice and hand tight. And then you have your sprinkler turn on, your ball valve. And so when you're opening these, you just want to do it very slowly. You don't want to slam these open. It's a lot of pressure for the pipes, for the fittings. And so when you're turning them on, you just want to take your time and do it nice and slow. And just listen to the water. It's also going to tell you a lot too, just the sound of the water. It should take about 5 seconds or so to stop. Then you can open it up all the way. And you don't hear any water rushing through the pipes anymore because it's stopped at the ball valve that we have upstairs. Okay, now that we've got the repair done, it looks like it's held. We're going to turn the water on now and check it. And so once you make this repair, you just want to double check and wipe all the water off, make sure nothing's leaking. Look inside down the top. That looks really good. So this unit didn't expand too much. The new parts went in sealed nice and watertight. So now we can turn the water onto the rest of the system. Once again, nice and slow on your ball valves. Allow them to just let the water go through nice and slow, and that's sealed up. So now just want to explain to you maybe a few things that are going to be coming up that are good things to look for as we start to run through the system. The water's on, so we're going to go over to the timer now and take a look at the timer and start to run a test of all the zones, and then we'll go through that when we get there. We're over here at the timer now. This is in this garage. Sometimes it's in the basement or even outside. This particular model's HydroRain, very similar to an Orbit model, very user-friendly. So we're just going to go over and we're going to just take a look at the settings on this timer and make sure everything's set up right. The date, 2015, 8/17, that's accurate. We're going to spin our wheel to the start times. We've got 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. And this model's real simple to adjust. If you wanted to go up to 9:30 p.m., you could just adjust it up or down. So those are good there. We'll look at start number 3, start number 4, nothing else there. So we've got a 5 a.m. and a 9 p.m. The run times, we've got 15 minutes per zone. This particular model has 2 zones. How you tell that is if you open the panel up, you can count the number of timer wires right here. You've got your common wire, which is white, supplying power to the timer. Then you have the 2 timer wires in station 1 and 2. Now that's not always 100% accurate, but most of the time that's going to give you a general indication of how many zones that you have. And now we're going to look at how often. The City of Denver allows watering 3 times per week. So we've got this set for Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you can see that indicated by the little squares over each of the days. And then we're just going to move it to the run position here, and that's pretty much set for the programming. The next thing we're going to look at is the additional programs B and C. So you do have up to 3 programs in this particular timer. So in the B program, we're going to also just double check to make sure we don't have any competing start times that are going to run. Here's an 8 p.m. We're going to get rid of that, clear that out. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in B is cleared. In C, we're going to double check those. So it's always good to check those other programs. Sometimes people will program additional time. You don't want your sprinkler coming on in the middle of the day, and get a ticket for a water violation. So those all look good. So we're going to put it back to the run position, and we're going to start to run through some of the zones. Okay, so now we're actually looking at the heads themselves. So one of the first things you want to check for is the stem pressure and see how good the pressure is. So this is nice and firm, it's nice and solid. That indicates that there's no breaks in the line. You can look at most of the heads in this zone, you can see they're working efficiently. So that's always a good sign. The second thing you want to look at is the actual spray themselves. So they should be coming out with a nice force. You should ideally have head-to-head coverage. Sometimes you can't always achieve that, but that's ideally what you're looking for. You can see that this particular nozzle is just kind of petering out. He's not really doing what he's supposed to be doing when you look at it in contrast from the other head. So the first thing we're going to try is just to open the set screw up. And that fixed our problem right there. So now we've got a nice good spray coming out. The easiest thing to do when you have a bad nozzle is check the set screw number 1, turn it down or turn it up, or just replace it. Just make sure it's the same one that was on there before, and that's usually the easiest way to go about fixing these pop-up heads. This is Dan from Dan's Sprinkler. We're out here in Green Valley Ranch, and we're just wrapping up our sprinkler startup. Just wanted to give you a quick summary of what to look for if you have someone help you or you want to do this yourself. Number 1, start with the vacuum breaker. Take a good look at that unit, make sure there's no cracks, nothing broken, nothing obviously wrong. Make sure there's no splits in the copper pipe. If there's something wrong, fix it before you turn the water on. Number 2, take a look at your timer. Find out how many zones are wired in there. If everything looks good, Number 3, move to the settings of the timer. Make sure you're not watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. You don't want to do that. You'll get a nice ticket from the people at the Denver Water Department, and you don't want that, trust me. The next thing is actually turn the zones on. Number 4, inspect the heads. Actually come out and look at the heads while the zone is on. This is the most often overlooked, easiest thing that you can do to make sure that your grass is maintained and looks nice, is make sure the heads are doing what they're supposed to. If you have to make some adjustments, make some adjustments. Thanks again. I hope you guys learned a lot and had a great day. This is Dan from Dan Sprinkler signing off.